Ax1Le is the pit and apartments player for Gambit, and today I'm going to show you some things that he does that you can implement into your own game. Starting off with some early round protocols, you usually don't use a lot of grenades until late round as a pit player, but Ax1Le likes to throw this smoke into the halls, and this smoke is really cool for a couple of reasons. Even though this smoke doesn't look very advantageous to the halls player, due to the gaps on the sides, regardless of which entrance you run through, you actually still get gray screened before peeking into the halls, which gives the pit player a clear advantage when fighting this angle. In this round, he throws the same smoke. Notice how he throws it around 140 to 142, because that's when the terrorists will get there if they run at full speed. And this smoke allows him to get a really easy kill onto Tessus. Sometimes, instead of throwing a smoke, Ax1Le will opt to throw a Molotov towards the hall's entrance instead, and he does it around the same timing, between 142 and 140. In this round, Ax1Le goes for some really interesting wallbangs in the apartments. First, he spams towards the door where the apartment's entrance is, and he gets a lot of damage onto Chopper. And then he'll pivot over towards balcony and shoot towards this green window, which is actually a wallbang lineup for the balcony room on the other side. I'm not really sure if this is necessary, but I've never seen this before, so I figured I'd include it in the video. But Ax1Le does this very interesting jump spot towards the halls, where he strafes out and reveals part of his body to get information. And in this round, it actually allows him to get information on the Godsent players coming out halls without taking a lot of damage. Once he backs up out of halls, a common place you'll find Ax1Le playing is on top of the balcony, and this is a pretty powerful position because it allows you to simultaneously watch for anyone running up lane, but also out of the apartments, so it allows you to hold two angles at the same time. That being said though, it doesn't allow for a lot of leeway in terms of repositioning, so just be aware of that. You can also use balcony as a means of challenging lane from an interesting off angle, but it exposes you towards the halls, so you typically don't want to do it unless you're at a clear advantage. As the pit player, you are more or less the last line of defense on this A bomb site, so your first priority should be staying alive. And this angle allows you to do so very easily because of how much cover you have and how much you can pivot between holding lane and holding apartments. Notice how even when Ax1Le makes contact with Yell at balcony, he doesn't go for the fight immediately, instead he just hides and lets his teammate take contact first. This is because staying alive as a pit player is just that important. Another advantage to playing towards pit is that you can run a double pit setup where you bait the other team into fighting your teammate in mini pit. Although in this round Inters doesn't have to do much since Ax1Le gets the first two kills, but because he baited for Inters is able to get this last kill really easily. Here's another round where even though Ax1Le knows that the Team Spirit players are pushing up into lane, he doesn't immediately go for all the fights. He takes the fights one at a time, hides, buys time for his teammates to come help him, and then he'll peek out again and go for another fight. It's really important as the pit player that you prioritize staying alive over getting a one-for-one trade. Sometimes, instead of facing towards lane, Ax1Le will just give up lane and try to hold the cross into the bomb site, and doing so in this round nets him two really easy kills. If his team wasn't in a 3 versus 5, this play probably would have won him the round. If you're getting nade stacked or Molotov'd out of pit and you don't really feel like you can play there comfortably, you can also play towards mini pit, and it allows you to crossfire with a teammate on the bomb site and sandwich anyone running up lane. Mini pit is also a really great position because it allows you to have a lot of cover fighting against arch traps. Because pit itself is such a large area on the site, you can play a lot of different off angles to catch the opponent off guard, and here Ax1Le plays towards the left side of the pit out in the open, but he's able to get 3 kills as Godsent tries to push out of the apartments. Because of how important it is to stay alive as the pit and apartments player, it's also really important to be able to reposition, if possible, after taking fights, and that's what Ax1Le does in this round. As he faces more players from Team 1, he's constantly shifting himself around this pit and apps area, and he was able to isolate duels and eventually get an ace in this round. Sometimes Ax1Le will play towards Graveyard, which is a very interesting position for holding towards Ax1Le and can be useful for getting a single kill. But to be quite honest, this position is very dangerous because once they know you're there, it's quite easy for you to get cleared out. So I wouldn't play here more than once or twice a half. Otherwise, you're not going to have a very enjoyable time. Moving back into the apartments, here's a one-way smoke into the app's entrance that allows Ax1Le to get this really easy kill onto Rops. While this one-way smoke is really effective if the terrorists go for a fast apartments play, there is a really big weakness in the sense where you have to have your back turned towards the balcony room, so if anyone decides to go up there instead of through the usual apps entrance, you'll get shut down pretty quickly. Lastly, I wanted to go over some halls setups that you can run with a teammate. In this round, Ax1Le is playing towards the left side of halls, while Shiro takes contact towards the left side entrance, and this is a really good bait setup that you can run to get some easy kills. If you want to play a bit more aggressively, you can run this back-to-back setup where you have one player holding towards the apartments entrance, that's going to be Shiro, and then you have Ax1Le holding the balcony jump up, so regardless of which entrance the teams take into the apartments, they're going to be taking contact with one of these players. In this round, Shiro gets a ridiculous triple kill that you probably can't rely on getting consistently, so just be aware that you're going to have to react really quickly when playing this setup.